A historic World Series is underway. Let's take a look at what went down in Game 2 in Cleveland. Giuseppe?
Yep, we were at Cleveland for Game 2 of the World Series as the Chicago Cubs looked to tie the series at 1 game apiece. LeBron was in attendance to see the Indians try to go up 2-0. Top of the first, Anthony Rizzo bounces that one off the right field wall. Chisenhall picks it up, but Chris Bryant's going to round third, and he's going to come in to score to put the Cubs up 1-0 early. Top of the third, Kyle Schwarber's back after a hiatus from an ACL tear earlier in the season, and he lines this one into center field. That one's good enough to score Anthony Rizzo from second to put the Cubs up 2-0 as Theo Epstein and the rest of the Chicago fans in Cleveland get pumped up for Schwarber. Top of the fifth, Ben Zobrist is going to line this one into the right field corner, and Lonnie Chisenhall is going to slip, and he's going to miss it as it goes past him. And again, Anthony Rizzo comes across to score to put the Cubs up 3-0 as Ben Zobrist gets in with the RBI triple. Still at the top of the fifth, Schwarber's back again, and he does it again, sending another one into center field for yet another run as Ben Zobrist scores easily, and Schwarber continues with the hot bat in his first 2 games back. Bottom of the sixth, Jason Kipnis sends this one to center field. That one's going to be picked up by Fowler, but he's not going to get the throw in time as Kipnis slides in with the double, breaking up Jake Arrieta's no-hitter through 5 1/3 innings. Still the bottom of the sixth. This time Jake Arrieta is going to throw a wild pitch past the catcher, and Jason Kipnis is going to score, putting the Indians on the board as the night is over for Arrieta. Bottom of the ninth, the flamethrower Aroldis Chapman gets Perez to ground out, fly the W indeed, as the Cubs win this one by a score of 5-1.
Now, to tell us more about this historic matchup, we're going to bring in our correspondent, Joe Rea. Joe?
Mason, with the World Series tied at 1-1, the Cubs and Indians are headed to Chicago for Wrigley Field's first World Series since 1945. The stadium didn't even exist yet when they won their last World Series 108 years ago. The Cubs' historic drought comes with a lot of superstitions. This week, pictures resurfaced of a 1993 yearbook where a student senior, quote, predicted a 2016 Cubs World Series win. Prices to witness history starts at $1,600 on StubHub, but that's just for standing room. For a seat, it costs over $3,000. With 2 storied franchises going head-to-head, it may be worth it to shell out all that cash. Mason?
Thank you, Joe. Fellas, let's bring it back here. Let's talk about Kyle Schwarber. Clearly, by that highlight, had a day, looks healthy, may have been brought back too soon. Giuseppe, what do you think?
Look, I watched Game 1 with Antonio and Craig, and I was telling them before the game, and they were making fun of me. I said Kyle Schwarber was going to have the World Series of his career. Obviously, this is his first World Series of his career, but this guy in the postseason was unbelievable. Last year, he had 5 home runs for the Cubs, which made him have the most home runs for any Cub in a World Series ever. And he's also, as you see here on the screen, a slugging percentage of .824 and an on-base percentage of .450. That's counting last year's postseason and this year's postseason in just 2 games. So the Cubs need this guy in the lineup to succeed, and it's been working out for them really well the past 2 games. Maybe not Game 1 because they lost 6-0, but now it's working out for him.
I don't know how anyone could say that he was brought back too early. Don't you think the Cubs doctors know best? I mean, this guy, he was out for the whole year with his ACL injury, but I think they would know when he's okay to come back. I mean, he's just swinging the bat and really running the bases. It's really not too much left to right cutting or anything like that. And he's one of their best hitters, so they need him. And obviously, he's not going to play the field because he can only hit, and he can't do that like left to right movement that you do in the field. But I think that he's okay just hitting for now.
Obviously, he's a valid piece to this lineup, but I think I actually one of those people who think he was brought back way too early. In April, the second or third game of the season, he tore his ACL and his MCL. Those are serious injuries for any athlete. The risk of re-injury, I think, is way too much.
I understand there's a risk for re-injury there, but I think that their doctors know best, and I think they would know that he was ready to come back.
The doctors do know best, but they obviously didn't need him to get to the World Series.
Yeah,
so you think they need him to win the World Series? I
think he adds another element to that lineup, though. I think
for sure. We saw that in Game 2.
Well, it's also a matter of how he performed on the field. In the first 2 games, he had the double in Game 1, and then he had 2 RBIs in Game 2. So we saw this guy can perform. Yeah. We saw that he's capable of coming back from an ACL tear so early.
I also don't believe that a risk of re-injury is that big of a deal for this guy. He's a guy that I think will eventually end up in the American League. He'll be a DH. He's not a fielder. We all saw that in the postseason.
If he re-tears his ACL, though?
If he re-tears his
ACL,
ACL,
I mean, you could say what if about anything, really.
That's the thing. We've seen guys bounce back from 2 ACL tears. Look at RG3. He plays football. He's bounced back from 2 ACL tears.
No, I definitely agree. Now, let's move forward here. Let's talk about what both teams need to do if they want to come out on top.
Well, I think that both teams really have to, the Cubs especially, have to keep on hitting like they were hitting in Game 2. If they look like they did in Game 1, but you got to attribute that to also the Indians pitchers as well. Corey Kluber pitched a gem in Game 1.
Sure.
So you really can't you can't blame the Cubs hitters in that game. But if you got Kyle Schwarber, Ben Zobrist, Anthony Rizzo, and Chris Bryant hitting like they did in Game 2, you saw it. They're going to do great.
I think it's just a matter of they need to get that pitching back under control. I mean, yes, Corey Kluber pitched phenomenally in Game 1, but it was also Andrew Miller and the rest of that bullpen. They shut them down Game 1. If who is it, Tolland pitching today, and then back to Kluber, if they can go back to that pitching well, it's over.
Now, fellas, we see the Indians. They're going with a 3-man rotation. Jake, what do you think about that? Good idea? Bad idea?
I'm with it. I like that. I think they should pitch Kluber as much as possible, especially the way he made that lineup look the other night. But they have a lot of good pitchers. I think they could last with a 4-man rotation, but 3 sounds good.
I like the 3-man rotation too. I think Corey Kluber is perfectly capable of pitching Game 4 and a possible Game 7.
You know what? I don't know. I think that having them pitch on 3 days rest is a little.
Yeah,
but it's rough for a starting pitcher.
What if they're down 2-1 after tonight? Then what do? You
Well,
got to go with Corey Kluber.
They seem
You
to
can't go with
be
Ryan,
capable.
You can't
of
go with
pitching
Ryan
on 3
Merritt
days
down
rest,
2-1. Again, the guy's a rookie. He has no postseason experience except for that one game last series.
They can't keep walking 8 guys a game. They just can't do that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the 2 errors they made as well. They had 1 error in the whole postseason up to that point. The 2 errors was crucial.
Now, guys, let's wrap it up with the big question here. Predictions, who's winning?
Well, we all know my prediction. It's Indians in 6.
I'm going to go with Cubs in 6. I think those bats are going to stay hot against the Indians pitching.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with Craig. Cubs in 6.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go Indians in 7.
Well, only time will tell. That'll do it for baseball. Stay tuned for a recap of the action on ice.